Every part of a mermaid is a treasure. Their scales can be spun into silk gowns, worth a fortune. Their oil can fuel mermaid lamps, burning for 10,000 years without extinguishing. And my father? He's the best fisherman in the entire village. Until today, when I discovered fish scales growing on my own body. On the chopping block lay pieces of mermaid flesh, already severed. The skin had been completely peeled away, leaving only pristine white fat and fresh red meat. I stood before the stove, meticulously separating the flesh from the oil with a small knife. Extracting mermaid oil was a difficult technique. If sliced too thick, the oil would mix with the red meat, resulting in a yellow oil that emitted a foul, fishy odor when burned. But if sliced too thin, the precious oil would be wasted. Mermaid lamps, fueled by this oil, were the most coveted items among the nobility. Even a tiny mermaid lamp could fetch hundreds of taels of gold. Every time the mermaid oil was rendered, my father would inspect the remaining flesh. If he found I hadn't cut it cleanly, he would crouch down, silently wiping away tears. My mother, meanwhile, would wail tragically beside him. She wept over her cruel fate, mourned the unborn son she longed for, and cried for having wronged the Song ancestors. After their tears subsided, their reprimands would begin. Those were the times I feared and despaired the most. Despite my father being the best fisherman in the village, our family remained desperately poor. The authorities strictly forbade commoners from trading mermaid products. All the mermaid oil we rendered, the peeled mermaid skin, and those shimmering golden scales were collected by agents sent by the Lord Magistrate. A single jar of mermaid oil, weighing 1 catty, was rumored to fetch 100 taels of gold in the imperial capital, Shanji. Yet the Lord Magistrate bought it from us for only 1 tael of gold. Even so, our village was still the wealthiest in the region. All the young women dreamed of marrying into our village. After all, ordinary farming families with several mouths to feed would scrimp and save all year just to acquire half a tael of silver. This disparity was also why my mother always wore a perpetual frown. My mother had been married to my father for 18 years, yet she hadn't borne a single son. The village matchmaker would visit our house every month, right in front of my mother, suggesting that my father should take another wife, one who could bear children. But my father always shook his head, refusing, saying he loved only my mother. He took her to the county town to see the witch doctor. The witch doctor declared that my mother's body was fine. With careful treatment and medication, she would certainly bear a son within 3 years. My parents were overjoyed by this news. However, the witch doctor's remedies were exorbitant. So expensive that even after my father emptied all their savings, it wasn't enough, plunging them deep into debt within the village. But my parents insisted that as long as they could have a son, it was worth selling their very blood and flesh. Without a son, they believed they would have no face to meet their ancestors, even in death. This dear noun. In the cramped, dim kitchen, the male mermaid, caged, let out a chilling sneer. My mind snapped back to reality, my face instantly draining of color. Oh, no. Lost in thought. I had cut a piece of mermaid flesh too large and accidentally dropped it into the pot. This batch of mermaid oil was ruin. The snow-white fat, boiling vigorously in the pot, was slowly turning yellow, and the house was filled with a pungent, unpleasant, fishy smell. This spoiled oil was considered low grade. The county officials would only pay a single silver coin for it. 1 tael of gold reduced to 1 silver coin. I had caused a disaster. If you can do one thing for me, I will help you restore this pot of oil to its original state. A deep, low male voice emanated from the cage. It was the mermaid who had been confined in our kitchen for half a month. All mermaids, once caught and brought ashore, were kept in the kitchen, forced to witness their kin being killed, butchered, skinned, and rendered for oil. My father said that in their fear, mermaids secreted a large quantity of oil. The more terrified they were, the more oil they produced, and the more money we would earn. With money, my parents could have a son, and the villagers would stop mocking them. I crouched before the stove, fumbling to pull out the firewood, desperately trying to salvage the oil. But what good would extinguishing the fire do? I only wanted to do something to mask my own fear. When my mother gave birth to me, she had actually been carrying twins, a dragon and a phoenix. But mother said I, in her womb, had done something evil, jostling to come out first, which led to my younger brother's tragic death inside her. The witch doctor had used countless remedies to save mother's life, but it also made it difficult for her to conceive again. I was the sinner of the Song family. Without me, my brother wouldn't have died, and our family wouldn't be burdened with so many debts. Now, I had ruined this pot of mermaid oil. I couldn't even begin to imagine the expressions on my parents' faces tomorrow morning when they saw it. Because we hunted too much, mermaids were becoming increasingly scarce. This year, our family had only managed to catch 2. Thinking of my parents' furious faces, I swallowed hard, fear rising in my throat. No, I had to find a way to save this pot of oil. Do you really have a way? I crouched down, looking at the grimy mermaid in the cage. His handsome profile, half hidden in the flickering candlelight, appeared even more beautiful than the young master of the Lord Magistrate's family. Mermaids, as a rule, possessed an extraordinary beauty, more exquisite than any celestial being depicted in paintings. Seeing me approach, the mermaid's eyes widened. I knew he was startled by my grotesque appearance. My mouth was crooked, one eye large, one small. My left cheek was marred by pitted scars, while my right cheek bore a large black patch. Even more horrifying, thick hair grew on that black patch. This was me, the most infamous ugly person in Song Village. When I was born, my mother had initially intended to drown me. It was my father who said our family had already lost 1 child, so we couldn't be without any, which was why he kept me. Because of my appearance, whenever I appeared in the village, the children would swarm around, throwing mud and stones at me. They called me Toad Demon, saying I was uglier than the most repulsive toad. The beautiful mermaid stared at me, then sighed after a long moment. You foolish mermaid, why do you help humans slaughter your own kind? There it is again, I scoffed, rolling my eyes. My parents were right. Mermaids were all deceivers. Every word out of their mouths a lie. What they said, not a single syllable could be trusted. He said I was actually a mermaid. Ha ha. Me, A mermaid? With this appearance, I'm worse than a scabbed toad. How could I possibly be a beautiful mermaid? Seeing my disbelief, the mermaid grew agitated. He suddenly gripped the cage, his voice urgent and heavy. "You're a mermaid. I wouldn't be mistaken. The witch doctor poisoned you. All you have to do is jump into the sea, and you'll regain your true mermaid form. This male mermaid truly wanted my life." I sighed, crouching down, and pulled up my sleeve, revealing my scarred arm to him. When I was 6, another mermaid had told me the same thing. That night, while my parents slept, I secretly jumped into the sea. The ocean water corroded my flesh. It was only because my father heard the commotion and followed me that I barely clung to life. The witch doctor said, "You have a special constitution. If you touch seawater, you will die." The burning, corroding sensation of my flesh, even now, makes my entire body tremble. Anyway, mermaids and humans are natural enemies. Mermaids, upon seeing a fishing boat on the sea, would attack us relentlessly. They would use hard rocks to punch holes in our hulls, throw highly venomous white-scaled creatures onto our boats, and seizing the opportunity, when fishermen weren't looking, drag them down into the water to drown them. And what about us? Fish oil for lamps, fish skin for clothes, fish scales for skirts, fish bones for jewelry. It's truly not surprising that a mermaid would want to kill me. I wasn't even angry. I was just more worried about my pot of fish oil. The witch doctor poisoned you. The seawater merely corroded the toxins in your body. The detoxification process takes a full day to complete. Last time you fell into the sea, did you inhale any water? Inhale water. At that moment, as I rushed into the sea, my entire body was racked with excruciating pain. How could I remember if I had inhaled water or not? But I had to admit, this mermaid was a much better liar. The previous mermaids, upon seeing the scars on my arm, had all fallen silent. The witch doctor's medicine must be taken long term. Every full moon night, you still have to keep taking it, don't you? If you stop taking the medicine even once and apply seashell powder to your skin, your scales will grow out. I looked at him, unsettled. The witch doctor had said, "Your body is weak and you are born with toxins. You must take medicine every month." These medicines were the heaviest burden on my parents' shoulders. "If you don't take the medicine, you won't live past 18, he'd said. And this year, I was already 15. I was a jinx, and now a carrier of poison. The scars on my legs tormented me every night, preventing me from sleeping. It was an incessant, bone-deep itch, as if tens of thousands of ants were gnawing at my flesh. Each time I took the medicine, these symptoms would subside, granting me peace for half a month. The closer it got to the full moon night, the more violently my symptoms flared. This mermaid was truly terrifying, able to discern my ailments with just a glance. I clamped my mouth shut, refusing to say another word to him. Father was right. Mermaids were masters of seduction, waiting for people to drop their guard before seizing their lives. Coral reef and moon petal flower, half a tael of each, grind them into powder and add them to the pot. Your pot of fish oil will return to its original state. A faint voice echoed, carrying a fatal seduction. The fish oil is already ruined anyway. Why not try my suggestion? What if it works? Do you want me to remind you? What happened last time you broke a bowl? How did they punish you? Thinking of my parents' punishments, my body began to tremble uncontrollably. Coral reef was the most common thing in the sea, and we even grew a few moon petal flowers at home. Under the moonlight, these flowers emitted a beautiful pale blue light. The fish oil was ruined anyway. I might as well risk it. I rushed out of the kitchen, running into the yard to find the flowers. My parents were long asleep. Meanwhile, Auntie, rendering mermaid oil was arduous work, requiring 2 days and 2 nights of sleepless vigil over the fire. Their bodies were weak, so this task had been given to me since I was 7. I returned to the kitchen, clutching 2 moon petal blooms. Seeing me come back, the mermaid's eyes lit up with a spark of hope. Try it! Hurry, it's almost dawn. You don't want your parents to discover you ruined a pot of fish oil, do you? With trembling hands, I ground the moon petal flowers and coral reef into a powder. Then, closing my eyes, I poured it all into the pot. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. White bubbles suddenly erupted in the pot, and the previously silent fish oil began to boil vigorously once more. The foul, bloody stench vanished, replaced by an intoxicating fragrance that filled the entire room. Rich and sweet, it made one feel as if floating on clouds, limbs light and buoyant. It was premium fish oil. This was the scent of premium fish oil. My eyes widened as I stared at the pot of oil, which was beginning to solidify. After a moment, I covered my mouth and laughed, then burst into tears. It's perfect. I won't be punished anymore. I frantically restarted the stove fire, resuming the rendering of the fish oil. Well, I didn't lie to you, did I? The mermaid in the cage spoke again. Tomorrow is the full moon night. Don't you truly want to see what you'll look like when you transform into a mermaid? I think after you detoxify, you will undoubtedly be very beautiful. Beautiful. I'll become very beautiful. I placed my hand over my wildly beating heart, unconsciously stepping closer to the mermaid. He leaned lazily against the cage bars, his face showing no sign of panic or fear from captivity. He picked up a seashell from inside the cage and offered it to me. Here, for you. I caught it in the sea before I was captured. I'm not mistaken. If you transform into a mermaid, even the most beautiful girls in town will run away in shame. I gripped the seashell tightly, my parents' warnings echoing in my ears. Mermaids are the most cunning creatures on earth. They bear a deep-seated grudge against humans. You are to stay home and work. Absolutely do not speak to mermaids. After much hesitation, I looked up, staring intently at the mermaid. You say, I'm also a mermaid, so why didn't my parents kill and sell me? My father was originally a mermaid hunter, wasn't he? The mermaid smiled, his eyes sparkling with a light as beautiful as the Milky Way. He truly was breathtaking, the most beautiful mermaid I had ever seen, because your father isn't just a mermaid hunter. He's also a mermaid breeder. Female mermaids, on the full moon night, after drinking a special herb, can transform into humans. Mermaid breeders often take advantage of this opportunity to force them. That's why some female mermaids become pregnant. Children born of humans and mermaids are covered in scales at birth, but their tails only grow when they reach 15 years of age. To ensure their tails develop better, with thicker fat, these mer-children live their entire childhoods in constant fear. Crash! I quickly snatched the seashell from the floor and in a panic ran out of the room, not even bothering to tend to the simmering pot of fish oil. The moonlight bathed the quiet courtyard, where a few moon-petal flowers emitted a faint ethereal glow, looking so peaceful and gentle. I hugged myself, sitting on the steps, my heart feeling heavy and sinking. Since I was old enough to understand, my parents had loved telling me all sorts of horror stories. Hook-tongued wolves eat children. Jiangshi suck blood. Nine-tailed foxes rip out hearts. The ending of those stories always involved several people dying in some household, while the monsters themselves were never seen. Just telling stories wasn't enough. My parents also made me sleep in a room at the far end of the courtyard. My room had no chamber pot, so to use the latrine, I had to cross the entire yard. Furthermore, my father often hung half a mermaid carcass, its tail severed, in the courtyard. Those mermaid corpses, whenever I walked past, would stare at me with bloodshot eyes. Later, as I grew a little older and became accustomed to such things, my parents began assigning me all sorts of chores. If I didn't do them well, I would be punished. And those punishments... I touched the goosebumps on my arm, then suddenly sprang up and rushed back into the kitchen. The mermaid oil was still cooking in the pot. I vigorously stirred the oil, trying not to listen to the mermaid, but his voice, as if enchanted, kept seeping into my ears. Tomorrow is your 15th birthday, isn't it? Do you know what fate awaits mer-children who are raised? You surely know the process well enough. Of course. I know. Plucking scales, skinning, severing tails, butchering, rendering for oil. What? And throughout the process of plucking scales and skinning, the mermaid must be kept alive, because only scales and skin taken from a living mermaid are shiny, vibrantly colored, and fetch a high price. Tomorrow is the full moon night, and it will also be the last time you take the witch doctor's medicine. To suppress the mermaid power within you, tomorrow's dose will be double. Little clownfish, if you don't want to be skinned and have your tendons ripped out, then don't take that medicine. Full of unspoken worries, I spent the entire night rendering mermaid oil. Just as the sun peeked over the horizon, my mother, rubbing her eyes, pushed open the kitchen door. Seeing the fish oil, neatly contained in snow-white bamboo tubes, she uncharacteristically offered me a rare smile. This batch of fish oil is quite good. All right, go to the village and buy a jar of wine. Your father and I will drink it at noon. With that, she stepped closer and touched my hand. Child, why are you getting thinner and thinner? You must be exhausted from not sleeping all night. After you bring the wine, go catch up on your sleep. It was so rare for my mother to speak to me with such tenderness. I looked up at her, my heart filled with an inexplicable mix of emotions. Don't just stand there. Go. She gently pushed me. I walked out into the courtyard, clutching the silver coin in my hand, then suddenly turned back and called out, "Mother!" She was holding a bamboo tube, sniffing the fish oil. Seeing that I hadn't left yet, she frowned. Still here? Mother, can I buy a packet of pine nut candy? It's been years since I've had any candy. I didn't know why, but I suddenly craved something sweet. Perhaps it was because my past 15 years had been truly miserable. Her face instantly darkened. Eat, eat, eat. What are you eating? You're nothing but a burden. I still have to borrow money for your medicine. Where would I get money to buy you candy? I turned and ran quickly towards the village, tears streaming down my face, before I even realized it. I had to run faster, had to buy the wine before the village children woke up. If I encountered them on the road, I would surely be beaten. As I ran, wiping away tears, my heart began to believe some of what the mermaid had said. If I truly was a mermaid, it wouldn't be so bad. Yeah, I'd heard mermaids lived at the bottom of the sea, catching fish when hungry, with no one to beat them, and no endless chores. Most importantly, I wouldn't be called Toad Demon anymore. Even if I were the ugliest mermaid, just a little prettier than I was now would be enough. Lyra, is that you? The one opening the tavern today was Master Song, our village teacher. He was mild-mannered and polite, the kindest person to me in the entire village. This tavern was run by his mother, Madame Song, and he occasionally helped her out. Master, aren't you teaching at school today? Master Song gave a remarkably gentle smile. The school is closed today. Have you had breakfast? My mother made stemmed buns today. With that, Master Song turned back inside and brought out a plate of steamed buns. He insisted on giving them to me, but I quickly raised my hands to refuse. You keep them to eat, Master. Your family isn't well off, and these steamed buns aren't an everyday treat. I truly feel embarrassed to accept. During our polite back and forth, the pink seashell I clutched in my hand fell to the ground, bounced twice, and hit Master Song's foot. I bent down to pick it up, but his face changed instantly. Lyra, be careful. That seashell is poisonous. Extremely poisonous. I felt my heart clench tightly, my mind momentarily blank. Poisonous? Extremely poisonous. How could that be? Yesterday, he had truthfully told me how to improve the mermaid oil, and he had been right about my childhood spent in fear. That's right, he was a mermaid. Master Song was the person I trusted most, the only one in the village who called me by my name. Others called me Toad, Demon. My parents called me Ugly Child. Only Master Song called me Song Lyra. He had even given me my name, saying he hoped I would one day shine as brilliantly as lapis lazuli. Master Song would never deceive me. It was that mermaid. He wanted to kill me. Master Song used a handkerchief to cover the seashell, carefully picking it up and placing it in my hand. This seashell is called pink star shell. It has a beautiful name, but if you're not careful and it touches your skin, you can easily be poisoned. The poison of the pink star shell is potent but adept at hiding. People exposed to it only suddenly succumb to the poison and die 10 days later. Moreover, upon death, an